Okay, Jan, over to yourself.
Thank you. So warmly welcome to yet another Swedish-Australian Chamber of Commerce webinar. My name is Jan Gardberg, President of SACC. And before we kick off, I would like to share a little bit about our chamber. With over 120 corporate and professional members, the Swedish-Australian Chamber of Commerce is the largest and most established Swedish-Australian business network in Australia, with more than 100 years of history, established already in 1911. We are a network with other organizations and individuals with Swedish-Australian business interests that want to stay informed about latest trends, to make connections, to exchange ideas, and also to find synergies and business partners and like-minded people. We cover total Australia and also operate in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and Brisbane with own local chapters, activities, and events. SACC is working also in close relationship with the Embassy of Sweden. And we co-host events and collaborate with Nordic and other international chambers. If you not already are a member, please also check out our website, the www.swedishchamber.com.au. Today's session and topic is a topic that no business of today can afford not to have in their strategic portfolio. It's about how to grow and develop the company brand, products, and services within the digital space, and how also to use real-time online insights to influence and shape business decisions. To help to navigate through this topic, we have with us today a few experts that work within this space every day. So again, warmly welcome, and I will now hand over to Sean Rooney. He will take the role as the host and moderator for this session. Sean, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Jan. So yes, my name is Sean Rooney. I am the founder of Amire, and we are a digital marketing agency based in Manly. And our goal today is really to give you all tips and tricks and how to navigate the online marketing space during the current climate. I'm going to start off by talking through some search engine marketing tips specifically. And I'll start by reflecting on history, because history has shown that during any major downturn throughout the past 50, 60 years, those businesses and brands that have pulled back less on their marketing have come out much stronger on the other side. Now, in saying that, we obviously have to be very sensitive. A lot of businesses are doing it so tough, as we know. So this is really all about making informed business decisions based on accurate data. And that is typically where we start. We always start with your data. So think of you guys running businesses or running a department. Your P&L is how you measure your success. And it's the same with your Google Analytics, if that's the tool that you're using to measure your online marketing. Now, I've added in a link here to a platform called Google Data Studio. Now, the great thing about this free platform, if you're not already using it, it provides you 24/7 real-time data on all of your marketing initiatives pulled into one dashboard. Now, the great thing about that is these days we really shouldn't be waiting, a week or even a month to get the insights on how your business is performing. This is taking away the friction and giving you a single point of contact 24/7 to ensure you know how your business is performing. So if you're not already using it, check out the link and see if it would be a good fit for your business. Moving on from that, I'd like to talk about Google Ads. So it's a great time to consider Google Ads at the minute. You may already be running Google Ad campaigns, but if you're not, because of the pullback initially in marketing spend, competition is less and therefore clicks are cheaper. So you're essentially getting more for your money. And if you are running Google Ads, it's really important at the minute that you're really reflective of the current times. You know, you need to be really empathetic. You need to watch your tone, and you also need to reflect on your current strategy. What we're doing now over the past 3-4 months is completely different to any time before. So to give you one great example of that is mobile traffic, which has been increasing exponentially over the past 5 years, is actually down 25%. And that's because we're not moving around as much. So it's really important to look at what your strategy is and how you change it during the current times. I've added a link here that gives you all of those insights that you can consider for Google Analytics at the minute. Another great tool is Google Trends. So you may have heard of this, you may have used it in the past, but the key thing is that you use it regularly, you make it a habit. So if you look here at some of the trending terms over the past week, for example, you'll see that this could be great insights for a financial planner to use these keywords in their content and their blogging strategy, for example, to gain more market share, more traffic, and therefore more sales. So it's really important to look at what's trending in your industry. You can click on that link, put in trending or terms that you believe relate to your business, and you'll see what is trending at any one time. Now, people are looking for local products more than ever. So if you're an SME, you need to make sure that you are appearing for local searches. And if you're a, if you're a larger corporate, you need to also look at things like Google reviews. That applies to large corporations and also SMEs. If somebody's doing research, and people are doing more research now than ever, people are looking for bargains, they're looking to compare more than ever, and they're looking to spend less and get the same value. So if you're 50-50 up against another competitor and the user can't decide, Google reviews is often the go-to place and makes that decision on who they're going to go with. But the big problem is most people actually don't know how to give a review. So we've made it very easy for you. We've given a link here for you to make your own custom link that you can email to your customers, or you can have on your website, and make it as easy as possible for them to review your products and services and get ahead of the competition. Now, when it comes to social media, as I mentioned, we need to be more sensitive and more empathetic. We have to look at our tone. We have to look at how we're helping people at the minute. We need to look at how we're helping our community. We need to look at, what our corporate social responsibility is and what our policies are there, and how we're educating and informing our online community on that. Now, one of the big golden rules has always been, the 80-20 rule. 80% of your posts, your social media posts, should be informational, they should be educational, and 20% should be promotional. Now, that golden rule doesn't actually stand anymore because more and more businesses are swaying towards a 50-50 split. So make sure that over the past 3 months, you look at your data in your posts. What's getting most engagement? Because what's working now is very likely very different from what it was 6 months ago. So make sure you have that split accurate enough to build more market share and more awareness for your business. Now, this next tip, it's called attribution modeling, and a lot of you will have heard of it before, but if you haven't, I can't understate how important this is. So this is really all about how do you give credit to an online sale through various different touch points. So think of the customer journey, for example. Somebody finds you through Facebook, then they click on an SEO ad. Then they click on the email that you've received through an automation inbound marketing tool like HubSpot. They bookmark your site, they click on that and go directly to your site, and then they get a Google ad a week later and they convert and become a customer. And who gets the credit? So should 100% of that credit go to Google Ads? Should it be Facebook because they actually brought you into your customer journey? Or should it be an even split between each? Now, here's the problem. If you're using Google Analytics, which most Australian businesses are, 100% of that credit goes straight to Google Ads. But what about Facebook? You know, they found you, they brought you in. And this is one thing that a lot of marketers aren't looking at. So I would highly recommend you click on that link, inform yourself about attribution modeling to make sure you're putting the right budgets into the right channels and keeping the right credit where it is due. And the reason that's so important is doing attribution modeling actually increases your performance between 20 and 40%. That is huge for your business. The other part of that is 75% of users start on one device, like a desktop, and finish on another, like a mobile device. And we know at least 67% of shoppers use more than one channel to make purchases. Now, we all use multiple channels, so it's very important that we reflect that and strategize to that in our own marketing efforts. So what we do today is and will determine how we're going to bounce back, how we're going to come through the other end. You know, things are different already, and they will be different with regards to online behavior. And as helping you come out the other end today, we have a complimentary SEO audit and a 30-minute consultancy that we're given to all attendees within this webinar. Just reach out, send me an email, and we'll work that on a first come, first serve policy. So on that note, thanks again for taking the time to listen to me today. I would like to pass on to Christian Becker, who is the e-commerce manager for IKEA Australia. Over to yourself, Christian.
Thanks, Sean, and thanks, Jan, for SACC for having me here today and sharing a bit from IKEA, our story actually around what we have achieved over the last couple of months. Just sharing my screen. Maybe just to get everyone can see that. Sean. Good, perfect. All right, so yeah, thanks again. Sharing a little bit of our story now over the last couple of months of actually what we have experienced within IKEA Australia. So I'll take the next couple of minutes to talk you through and share a bit of our journey when it comes to increasing market share, especially in the online space. Everyone associates IKEA with our big blue boxes you all have seen. Hopefully many of you have been to IKEA, came for a visit, but actually we have launched e-commerce, actually our e-commerce platform 2 years ago. And actually from the day we launched it, we saw some rapid growth actually when it came to e-commerce. And actually to date, we have seen a 300% revenue increase actually over the last 2 years. So super proud to have achieved this. And you can see on the left-hand side, you could see the website, actually what it looks today. And I'd like to take you a bit through actually what has been our journey. And the key part I want to just touch on is a bit the home furnishing market and customer, just to give you guys a bit of idea how this actually looks like. And then actually really from an IKEA performance, what happened during that time. And then really what we believe has really driven our success, which is around the customer-centric approach and also the customer promise. So when we look from a market perspective, where we are now, actually within 2 years, we have gone to around 15% online market share now, and it's steadily growing within the home furnishing market. And actually, the online business is now accounting for around 12.3% of the IKEA business. Again, within 2 years, super rapid growth. And I can definitely share that we actually have seen during COVID to hit 20% plus actually when it comes to online share actually. So we have seen some big increases here in sales compared to market, which is around 8.2. So yeah, huge success actually here from an IKEA perspective and the take-up we have seen within the e-commerce stream. Probably not many surprises, but just to really underline this, as a result of COVID, we really see movements, especially when it comes to the website, to our IKEA app, but also to click and collect. This is where we've probably seen the biggest movements coming from a customer behavior, and we believe this one will really stay around. How customers will shop, it's all more convenient, and customers really using now the e-commerce channel much more than they used to do before. So how has been our performance now, and what have we actually experienced? I have just shown a little bit the graph over the last 4 months, and it's probably not so much about the actual number, but it's really more around to compare the light blue number you see is our last year number, and the dark blue is actually our actual number. And you can see the numbers we have really gone through has been really substantial. I mean, what we're most proud is we tripled our conversion rate. But has really come out of a very strong online visitation. We have seen really a doubling of the online online visitation, and actually on top of that, to triple then our conversion rate. And during that time, we are super proud that we actually could achieve this. And hence also, we actually could triple our online orders. So when we talk about transactions, actually orders we send out to our customers, you can see really the substantial increase. And actually, interesting enough for us, even after lockdown, we have seen most of those numbers actually not coming down back to our last year numbers. So we are still on very, very high numbers compared to last year. Of course, when you get a lot of more customers coming to your website and you have a lot more orders, you want to really create a consistent customer experience. And again, here, just to kind of outline, you can see the graphs actually very flat or actually increasing. So it means when I came to our website UX and when it came to our delivery score, we actually managed to even grow when it came to customer experience. And we're super proud of this one, that we actually could really manage this massive increase of volume. And as most of you probably experienced, it almost happened overnight. So it really stretched us a lot, but actually it's fantastic to see the customer feedback there to say actually we could still deliver a consistent customer experience. So now you're probably curious a little bit, how have we achieved this? And we bring it back to really 2 points. The first one is really around customer-centric approach. It's really to understand who your customers are and what are their needs. And the first part we really focused on is SEO and SEM. Being quite a big brand, we actually have a fair bit of authority when it comes to branded search. So we actually shifted it quite substantially a couple of months ago, actually much more into keyword targeting around the non-branded search. So when customers obviously searching, since we know loyalty when it comes to customer is obviously decreasing, so we're really starting to look into more categories where actually it's more about the generic terms. And actually have seen some great movements there for us when it comes to words. You can see we're talking around 2,200 keywords at the moment. And this category is constantly increasing as we always review. But what has been really the achievement for us is that by really retargeting the SEO keyword targeting and also the SEM really much more around the keywords without non-branded, we have really noticed that we could really boost our position within Google. So when it comes to the first and third position, so of course every business would like to be in that place. We actually have around 31% of our keywords in this, and 61% is in third to 10th position, meaning on the first page of Google. So if you look at the keywords we're targeting, 92% is actually within the first page, which we are super proud of that we have achieved this. And we could really see attracting new users has been one of our key achievements here. Another one is, again, showing you guys a bit the website of what it actually looks like, because that's what we constantly improve. And we are a home fishing company. For us, it's important that it's easy to browse and explore and to plan, that we really give customers the inspiration and everything they like to see, and they actually need to make a purchase. Also very important here, it's always on the radar that we really make the optimizations around the SEO, which I shared before. So when it comes to content, we are very much looking into what actually will help us to optimize our SEO and SEM keywords, as I mentioned before. So has been a big focus, and it will continuously be for us going forward. Another one is when you come to IKEA, hopefully many of you have been and have come to the store, or you have come to the website, you will see we have some very straightforward products you can purchase. You know, we have the tea lights, we have the quilt cover, we have a sofa, but then we also have much more trickier products which demand a bit more planning. And actually what we launched pretty much once we started to go into lockdown around February, March, we really went everything we offer in the store, we wanted to offer in an online environment. So if you think about, you would like to plan a room, you would like to plan your house, you would just like to plan your kitchen, we actually offered all of those services virtually for free. and we have seen a massive take up actually when it came to those things, and really has given us the backbone to the success we have seen, because it just made it so much easier for our customers to plan online and actually do the purchase online as well. And of course, if you get inspired and you come to IKEA and you see what you like, then we have done our first job. But the next big one is really, and we call this, it's our IKEA customer promise. And here we really talk about stock availability and fulfillment, because that's ultimately, if you want to fulfill your dreams, you would like to get the goods as soon as possible. And why is this important? Because that's for us a key part about when it comes to the instant gratification. So when customers come to IKEA, we really would like to give them the products straight away and also fulfilled in the way they would like to. And I think here you can see a couple of numbers we actually were. We literally went from overnight to around 95,000 pieces to 270,000 pieces sold. But we managed actually a very strong stock level by actually working very hard for our supply chain. We also launched free contact, less click and collect. We are a cash and carry company. Lots of our customers would like to do things themselves, and they come with bigger cars. And we launched that, and we actually saw a 7 times increase in orders actually through click and collect. And also deliveries. We went from 8,500 to 20,000 deliveries weekly. And here it was a lot around, again, making it contactless, but providing consistent. And you can see a part of in April, when we really were a bit surprised with the take up, we could really deliver a very consistent and very competitive delivery window for our customers. So these were pretty much the key parts which enabled us to grow our business. So what I shared really is around the customer-centric approach. SEO and SEM keywords optimization has seen some huge impacts for us, especially when it came to new users. And then, of course, depending what your company stands for us is a lot about providing home furnishing competence and advice, so customers can really do the easy buying. And last but not least, as you really trigger your customers and kind of prompt some of their dreams, that you really have the availability and the fulfillment that customers can actually purchase. And that is actually what I wanted to share. So if you have any more questions, then please reach out to me. But I know we have the Q&A later as well, so feel free to put them into the Q&A as well. I'm absolutely happy to share with you more if you're interested. And that is it, pretty much it. And then I think I'm handing back to Sean. Sean, you're on mute.
I think we're struggling to hear you, Sean.
We can't hear you.
Thank you, Kat. Okay, yeah, so thanks so much, Christian. Thank you for those fantastic insights. You guys are obviously kicking a lot of goals, so congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
I am very excited to have David Fernandez on here from Facebook. So on that note, I shall hand over to David.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Jan, for having myself and Facebook here today. There we go. I just thought I'd share a few insights that we have around rethinking Christmas for 2020 and how you may think about approaching it from a consumer insight perspective. And then just a couple of tips and opportunities around a couple of our products that I thought might be useful for some of you if you haven't used them before, or you may be using them, and I'll share with you possibly some different other approaches that you could take. I think for me, the first thing that's worth calling out that it's been a challenging year, and we're only halfway through. So I know I'm certainly looking forward to Christmas this year more than ever, and I'm sure the majority of you are as well. And the other point is that I think this actually won't be the actual first Christmas for a lot of people out there. If you think about sort of essential retailers, a lot of fast-moving consumer good companies, pure plays tech companies, they've already seen trading at Christmas-like levels already this year, sort of in the height of COVID lockdown. So it's not going to be a one-only sort of time this year. And also there's been sort of 3 years of digital transformation in 3 weeks we've seen. So there's just been so much change. We've seen a lot of retailers in our space that we work with pivot to online and digital catalog in particular. It's something that had been developing for some time, but during COVID, with physical distribution of catalogs stop, we saw a significant pivot from retailers, and that activity and investment in that space has continued. So that's certainly an area that's being reimagined as part of COVID and sort of accelerated. And then if you sort of look from a brand perspective, several pieces of research that we've conducted and that we've seen is that there's been a shift to sort of community and what's important to people. And probably the most recent example that I've seen of a retail brand sort of addressing this is Walmart have just come out and they're going to give Black Friday and Thanksgiving back to their employees. They normally start that at sort of 6 p.m. on the evening of Thanksgiving, but they've decided to, you know, close their stores and give that back to their employees. So I think we're deeply cognitive of that sort of shift within consumers and people. So 2020, I think, without a doubt, is a unique year. So what do we think the consumers are expecting? Certainly a lot more joy, and that is, you know, more focus on what matters to us. You know, family, friends, slowing down, having space to, you know, enjoy life and less pain. So that's an opportunity, I think, for a lot of businesses out there. So how better can you help with Christmas preparation? How can you assist with taking that friction and that pain away from shopping? So that's a huge opportunity. So from us, like in the context of Christmas, you know, we think that you know, it's not just Christmas has shifted, but everything's shifted. You know, there's a view to the future that there's a degree of uncertainty. Will we be locked down again? We've already seen Victoria go back into lockdown. Is that going to happen in New South Wales? Will I be able to spend Christmas with my family or only 5 people from my family? So I think there's a certain level of uncertainty that's in the air, and that's altering behaviors, and those behaviors are going to alter Christmas. So, you know, to my point, you know, there's this real cultural truth that in these times of isolation, we've sought more meaningful human connections, and that's going to continue increasingly. Also, post-isolation, Australians are looking forward more 56% meeting with their friends and spending more time with their families. So this is going to be a continued sort of trend and focus that we're seeing as people try to sort of extract more meaning and out of their lives. And also, I think, you know, the crisis has made us think about our choices. You know, lockdowns really had that impact. You know, even sort of, you know, deeds done by people on our behalf that we hadn't thought about before. You know, the delivery drivers and shopkeepers and nurses. You know, catching up more frequently with family and friends to have dinner and break bread. You know, won't put off calling the friend that you've been putting off for a certain period of time. You know, there's increases in sort of value of personal space, and people are reconsidering that, and how does that impact shopping? You know, will people be more inclined to only shop at destinations that sort of are sort of increasingly respecting that need for personal space and you know, contactless encounters? And we've just heard, you know, Christian talk about click and collect and the increases that they're having there, which is an excellent example of that. You know, we don't think Christmas is going to be all about penny pinching, but certainly we're anticipating safety over savings, a lot of more value over price, and support over discounts. You know, how can retailers support, you know, their shoppers and consumers during this time? You know, I think for a lot of people, you know, Christmas had just done this job to crush, and I think this year that's not going to be the case. We think we're really sort of pivoting back to the meaning of Christmas, that human connection and interaction caused by what we've seen And you know, and it has historically been unsatisfying and unthinking. You know, we worry about getting it all done, chasing bargains, you know, fret about it being delivered on time. Yeah, but all of these are opportunities for retailers to sort of remove this friction that's existed around Christmas. So Christmas reevaluated, as I'd mentioned before. So we're going to see a lot more care and meaning put into gifts, you know, more of the Christmas spirit with community, and being kind to everyone. So I think we sort of re-emerge out of COVID with a lot of great opportunities. And I think if we sort of pull that together, there's this, you know, and relate it back to the role for brands. You know, Christmas has become, there's a truth that it's become a habitual chore. But you know, more than ever, you know, people are yearning for that authentic human connection. So you know, the audience and the consumers are going to be reevaluating the things that they've taken for granted, and really sort of hone in on what is truly essential for them. So some of the ways we think that I thought I'd share with you around some of our products that we think that you can sort of bring your Christmas alive is, one is a product we have called Stories, which I hope some of you, if not all of you, are familiar with, but harnessing the power of stories. And what we've seen there is this shift from horizontal images to vertical. And this is just a universal trend that we've seen. And the other one is 82.5% of visitors to video-centric websites hold their smartphone in portrait orientation. This is a consumer behavior that exists out there. And we're seeing, I guess, a lag in content catching up to this, in the way it's being shot, the way it's being curated. So Stories also is a cultural phenomenon that's just exploded. Stories, the acceleration of Stories is much faster than feed within Facebook. So that we don't see this abating, and it started on Instagram and we've now rolled it across all our family of apps. You may have noticed LinkedIn are now rolling out a Stories capability as well. Sorry, Sean, some of those videos didn't work. But to give you guys just some details around Stories, it's a low pressure, bingeable and authentic form. It's in full screen. It's ephemeral, so that means it only lasts for a period of time. It's fast, it's consumed very quickly, and that has a lot to do with the swipe right movement. It's very playful and fun. It's in the moment. And it's very interactive. There's a lot of features, whether it's, you know, polling, for example, there's pause functionality. So it's very interactive. And across the family of apps, we're seeing 1 billion stories that are shared every day. So it's a huge opportunity for advertisers. It's helping brands engage audiences. Sorry, Sean, these videos aren't working, which I will share. So I might just skip ahead since they're not loading. We've got one. So hopefully you can see this is a great example of sort of native stories within the carousel. That's one of my favorite, the Doritos. The other opportunity that I thought was worth raising with you, because a lot of brands have assets that aren't built for digital environment, whether that's a TVC, or it could be stills for outdoor or what have you. But we have a product called InStream for video details, where it's a pre-roll and a mid-roll. Your content or video can be 5 to 120 seconds. So you can take an existing asset that you have. It's non-skippable. Typically, we see 70% completion rates. It's sound on. So we think this is a great branding opportunity for those businesses and advertisers that may not have existing assets that they feel appropriate for our services, or they may not have budgets to extend. Whereas this would just be a natural extension of their screen strategy for online video. So that may be a very easy opportunity. And in-stream can run within Watch, within our surface. It can also exist within the news feed, in our search results, and within publishing pages. So there's lots of avenues for it to live across our surfaces and apps. Sean, that is me. I'm very sorry that my videos didn't work.
Not at all, David. Thanks.
Better to be the first person to technical issues. So, Kat, if anything happens to you, it won't look as bad as mine.
No, not at all, David. Thanks so much for sharing those insights. I'm sure most of us can relate to all those concepts you talked about, and there have been a number of specific questions that have come through for yourself on Facebook. So we'll pose those to you in the Q&A session at the end. So thank you. And finally, we are on to Kat Warboys. Now, Kat heads the marketing for HubSpot throughout Australia and New Zealand. Thanks so much for taking part, Kat. So I shall hand over to yourself.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm feeling very relieved that I don't have any video and I didn't try to be too creative with my deck. Can you all see that? Can I just get a confirmation, a nod from someone that my screen is looking good? Amazing, thank you. So thank you for that introduction. There's a lot that I want to say in a short amount of time, so I'll be very brief with my introduction. I'm Kat, I work at HubSpot and I look after marketing for Australia and New Zealand, where I've been working for just over 4 years now. And what I thought might be helpful to share with you all today is this thing we call the HubSpot's benchmark data report. And so this really looks at what was going on to core business growth metrics during COVID. And we did this because not just for ourselves, but for our customers and our audience to try and sort of identify trends that were happening and what we could take away from that. And so before we get into the data exactly, I just wanted to let you know where it's come from and explain the thinking behind it. So it does help to know what HubSpot is in that regard. So HubSpot, if you're not familiar with us, we are a leading growth platform. It's comprised of a marketing hub, a sales hub, a customer service hub, all centered around a free and very robust CRM. So the metrics we were able to pull from the aggregated data of over 70,000 of our global customers were very much focused on those departments. So the metrics we're going to look at are things like email open rates, website traffic, sales deals, close rates, all these kinds of things. And the data is a weekly trend data. So it really started at the beginning of COVID, which we used the World Health Organization's official start date of March 11th. And we compare these metrics and the data during this time to what we call the benchmark data. So essentially the data for these metrics before COVID, really looking at the start of the year, so start of January through to sort of March 9th. A couple of things that are good to note about this, because it is reflective of our customer base. This data is reflective of companies that have already invested in an online or inbound growth strategy. The second very important thing to note is I am not an economic or a health expert, so I'm definitely not making sweeping predictions or sort of judgments here. Instead, we just wanted to share the insights that we were able to glean from our customers and how we've been thinking about what this is telling us in terms of insights and how we should be thinking about growth during the time of a crisis. So enough of the methodology, let's actually look at the data. So first of all, I'm going to take you through some of the marketing engagement metrics that we saw. So starting with website traffic, this is pretty strong and incredible metrics and increases that we saw. So website traffic really pretty much from the week that COVID hit, it really begun to rise across the globe. So as you can see in the data here, we've got the global metric, but I've also been able to break it down for us today for Australian and New Zealand businesses as well. And the trend across the globe pretty much follows the same. We're very closely aligned, although we might see sort of different degrees of variation depending on and what it looks to be tied to economic environment and the confidence that our buyers had in the market at that particular time. So this isn't really a big surprise of website traffic, as many consumers were forced to take their buying research, their buying journey online. We really saw businesses have to meet their customers in those channels as well, right? So a lot of businesses that weren't already online had to get online, and those that weren't had to double down on those efforts. And we're really seeing this in the website traffic. One thing that's particularly interesting to me about this chart is if we think about the periods of time that Australia and New Zealand really started to see a lift in the restrictions on the ground, these metrics didn't go back to, pre-COVID averages. They stayed and maintained very, very high, which is interesting and potentially an indication that we've entered a new phase of the digital world and we can continue to kind of see these kind of metrics at these rates going forward, quite possibly. If anyone has any insight into what might have happened in New Zealand in that last week there and why it shot up, I would love to hear it. The team and I have been racking our brains trying to figure out why they saw such a spike. With customer initiated chat, we're really talking about online chat and chatbots here, which is a favorite topic of mine. And again, as you can see, following the week of COVID kind of hitting our markets, real significant rise in the amount of volume that businesses were getting from customer initiated chat. And, again, I think this is a channel that customers really value when they're trying to get answers. And they wanted answers to questions to things like, how are you adapting? How is your service affecting me now? How can you help me with these particular new challenges that I'm facing now? And so we know from a Twilio report that about 89% of consumers would prefer to engage with your business through messaging channels. So spoiler alert for the takeaways at the end, if you're not investing in online chat, you really should be. We were seeing sales teams really use this channel as a way to increase their pipeline, but mostly by customer support as a channel to sort of handle that increase in customer inquiries coming through. Again, customers wondering how their service might be affected during this time. This is an interesting one that gets different reactions. Marketing email sends, again, huge spikes in volume of what marketing was sending their audience. Now, this could be, great marketing, crushing it, great job, or it could be, are we spamming everyone? And could this be really bad? Well, the next slide actually indicates that it was a really good thing because while our marketing email sends were a lot higher in volume, the response rate was really high as well. Email opens, and I haven't got it here today, but clicks matched that increase in volume. So clearly marketers were getting that balance right of frequency of content and messaging and the type of content during this time as well. It actually wasn't overly promotional. It was more, here's how we can help you. Here's how we're changing our service. Here's how we're adapting to make sure that you're staying safe. So we were finding a lot more sort of helpful educational content during this time. I think the tech industry were renowned for this, how to get online, how to do this, rather than being, straight up promotional. So that was really interesting to see as well. So what about sales? On the sales side, the metrics we looked at again were the emails that sales were sending and also sales deal creation, so net new deals being created. First, on the sales side, very similar to marketing, huge spikes and increases in the volume of emails that sales representatives were sending their prospects compared to pre-COVID data. So you can literally see in Australia, like very high increases around mid to late April, about 120%, extreme increase in sends. Unfortunately, unlike marketing emails, which increased in volume, the response rate to sales emails actually negatively substantially dropped. So volumes increased and yet response rate dropped quite a lot. So something was going wrong here in the messaging, in the context, maybe the nature of the emails that our sales teams were sending. So very, very interesting to keep an eye on. And also question, what's the role of marketing during this time? If our sales reps aren't able to cut through, what is it that marketing can be doing to support sales during these times? So the big one that everyone wants to know about is deal creation. Are we actually able to create new deals and new business during this time? Well, initially, and it might not probably come as a surprise, I think a lot of people were holding their breath. They were waiting to see what was happening during this time. Any decisions that they were thinking to maybe, make significant purchases were held off for a brief period of time. And then again, if we think about each region's restrictions easing and how things were looking more positive in the market, I think there's a big correlation between buyer confidence and the number of new deals being created. And Australia definitely got a head start on this. We actually, when we look at globally compared to Amire, LATAM, NorthAm, Australia was actually the first to quickly recover on new deals being created as well as new deals being closed. So we've got sort of a more positive outlook in the market here at the moment. So what are the things we can take away from this? I think fundamentally we have to realize, if we haven't already, that our buyers have changed. We may have new personas that we never thought we would sell to before, and maybe our existing persona has actually pivoted as well. So what are their new challenges? What are their new needs and wants? I think a really great example of this is a customer called Coffee on Q. So Coffee on Q are a Melbourne-based company, and they supply coffee carts, like barista-style coffee, to the events industry. So you can go to a conference and still have a great coffee. Obviously, with lockdown and no events happening, this was pretty devastating for a business like Coffee on Q. What they quickly did is they re-looked at, their core persona, and what they found is they had a brand new one, because with all this coffee that they normally send to events stuck in a warehouse, and with people increasingly spending time at home making coffee at home, they figured they could actually sell direct to consumers. They had a new market, and that's what they started doing. They spun up an online store almost overnight and started selling coffee bean subscriptions direct to consumers. They then revisited their second persona, their original persona, which is your events manager or your marketing manager, right? And they realized that events hadn't stopped, they had just changed, they'd gone online. And so for that consumer, they'd actually created these virtual coffee packs. So for virtual events that were happening, you could engage Coffee Queue to send your attendees ahead of time a coffee pack that they could make at home. So adding this really nice personal element to what is a virtual event. So really, really smart way there. They identified a new persona and how their old existing persona had actually changed and how their needs. So adapting to that is incredibly key. And then, as Christian, I think, demonstrated really well in his presentation, your website quickly becomes your new shop front in this world. Businesses who previously had no or limited online presence have found themselves having to move quickly. And even those that did have an online presence found that they had to really ramp up how that was able to support a new infrastructure and new demand. I would definitely say when it comes to sites, invest in chat. Prioritize helpful, relevant content, and leverage chatbots to keep serving your customers even when your teams have gone home for the day, when they've clocked off and they're no longer able to take inbound inquiries. Chatbots are a really great way to keep that conversation going even when your team have clocked off for the day. And then lastly, and I think this really comes out of the sales data piece that we saw in the volumes and the response rate of sales emails, let's think about quality over quantity, really, really targeting our messaging all the way from how we're positioning ourselves and communicating, right at the top of the funnel on the website, all the way down to how our sales team are also, thinking about their email strategy. And what's marketing's role there to support reps as well, to help them think about how they word things. I mean, we've touched on this already through our other presentations today, but I think a very empathetic approach is really important. Overall, businesses in Australia and New Zealand have done a really, really good job at staying connected with their customers. And I think, as we've seen from the data in terms of close rates and new deals, this is really starting to pay off in our markets. And that's all I have from you. Hopefully I'm not too over time.
No, that was perfect, Kat. I know we didn't give you a lot of time, so you smashed that. You got through so many stats, and it's really encouraging to see how well we're doing here in Australia. So thanks for sharing all of those positive stats. And we do have a number of specific questions that have come through for you regarding HubSpot. So we will move into the Q&A session now, guys. We do have questions for each of the panelists. And I'm going to read out a question for yourself, Christian, at IKEA that has come through. And that question is, what will be the next digital launch and update from IKEA to your customers? So what's the next thing that you're putting out there to your customers?
Thanks, Sean. A great question. I think what we can see, and it's been shared with Kate shared this as well. I mean, we can definitely see mobile. A lot of traffic for us comes to mobile. Actually, we have more than 60% of our traffic actually coming to mobile. So actually, we'll continue to invest into the mobile. And actually, as I shared before, we have an app. We know, especially for the younger generation, talking Gen Z and millennials, we're actually launching an IKEA app as well. So that is actually something where you can actually directly download the app and you can actually purchase from there as well, from inspiration very quickly then to purchase. So that's one of the ones we are planning to launch end of this calendar year. And then otherwise, really around the checkout, this is some of the key pieces we really wanting to improve also in the next couple of months to make it even easier to check out.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Christian. Sounds exciting. And Jan, I saw yourself on Channel 9 News a few weeks ago, I believe. And I believe you guys are getting into solar panels as well. Was I watching the right thing, or? or is that another product that you guys are getting into, Christian?
Looking now if Jan wants to take this one.
Yeah, oh, Jan's here. Yes,
absolutely.
Jan.
I had a really bit trouble to find the the right button to activate the camera. No, thank you. Yes, we have just recently launched Solstråle, which means translated from Swedish sunbeam, and that is we're also trying to step into that place to offer affordable home solar solutions, to be able to get more and more people to help to decarbonize the full network here in Australia. So,
oh, fantastic! Is that something we're going to see in the near future or next year? Or
no, it's just launched 1.5 months ago, and it's rolling out now state by state. Also interesting because most of the conversations with the customers and consumers is going mostly into the digital space for this, and it's proven also then it helps us to have accessibility all across Australia, so you don't need to be just close to a store.
Fantastic. Thanks for your answer. And moving on to David at Facebook. So we have somebody that has asked, what Facebook strategies have worked best and why during the current climate?
Well, I think it's a good question. So obviously, depending on sort of what the business challenges that we're solving for, but probably one of the most impactful strategies that have been deployed during COVID is digital catalogs, addressing a specific sort of challenge that retailers are faced with. They're not being able to distribute catalogs. What we're seeing was huge opportunity for sort of younger demographics, new families, younger families as well. So that's proven very successful across sort of essential and non-essential as well. So that's certainly been a highlight.
Great, thank you, David. And on to Kat at HubSpot. Kat, are there any industries that were shown in the data to be particularly affected by COVID?
Yes, certainly. And they probably come as no surprise, but travel and entertainment were particularly affected in a number of metrics. That was across website traffic, even email sends. You know, they were actually bucked the trend that we saw where most industries were over communicating or trying to be very, you know, keep in touch with their customers. That really dropped off for the travel industry. And I think they were the industry that sort of suffered worse in terms of new deals being created and, you know, actually, you know, being able to close new purchases. That has started to ease. At one point at its worst, it was about 57% below like what we saw pre-COVID. And now that's closer to about 27. So there's some increases. And I think we've seen lots of campaigns come out from the industry recently with the, you know, buy now, play later kind of thing. And I think that's helping, but they're certainly sort of not quite back to what they were seeing before the outbreak, unfortunately.
Okay, and just on that topic, we've been asked, you know, are these just short-term trends or have things changed for good?
It's a good question. I think there's some really indicative data there that suggests that, I think I mentioned this, you know, as you know, we saw some restrictions ease in Australia and New Zealand doing really well and confidence coming back, you know, we continue to see high volumes of communication from companies. Companies are still continually to interact with their consumers. And I think that might be something we see continue. I think businesses that weren't previously online now are. And we're used to, you know, even those that didn't love to do our purchase online, we like to go in store, have kind of gotten used to this motion now, and we're more comfortable with it. So I think these are the kind of metrics that we could see continue. And I think a lot of it, you know, were trends that we were hoping to see in the next couple of years. And to be honest, the current climate has just accelerated that. Chat on the website is definitely one of them. I don't think nearly enough businesses were leveraging this channel, and then they realized what it could do for them in being able to stay in touch with their customers, set up bots to take, you know, bots are fantastic in terms of they can take care of a lot of the commonly asked questions that you don't need to have a dedicated real person answering all the time. So there's a lot of efficiency wins for organizations to go down that path. So hopefully we'll continue to see organizations take advantage of a channel like chat.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for the detailed answer there, Kat. And over to Christian at IKEA. We've been asked, what IKEA sales trends do you predict for the next few months?
Well, we obviously are in an environment which is still changing very rapidly at the moment. We have just now gone through another lockdown, I guess, in Melbourne. I think the things are quite volatile at the moment. So we do foresee actually the sales trends to be quite similar and actually still continue to move into the online space. So that's probably all I can actually say at this point of time. We actually expect to see the trends to continue. And actually we see more and more customers probably even moving into online, because we can see the repeat of purchase online. It just becomes much more ingrained now in how consumers actually shop. So we do see this one sticking around for sure.
Thank you, Christian. And I've got one final question here for David from Facebook. And that has been, the question is, what has been the biggest change in how users engage Facebook over recent months?
I think one of the biggest trends we saw in sort of consumer usage was across all our messaging services. So that's WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Direct. There was a very quick and significant increase that took over once COVID hit, and that continued. Certainly was some increase in time spent, but messaging was the biggest sort of consumer trend that we noticed, which kind of makes sense if you think about, people wanting to connect with friends and family. People were scattered around the world and people were reconnecting, and that was something we're seeing. I haven't seen any numbers sort of post on number of messages sort of sent and what have you, but that's certainly something that we observed.
Thank you, David. And sorry, I actually do have one final question. This is the last one. And it's actually for Eugene at HubSpot, who works on the product side. And the question is, what is the bottleneck between finding the client online and converting to a sale?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors there with regards to the bottleneck in terms of finding the client online and getting that sale. I think at the end of the day, like on to Kat's point, the role of marketing needs to be well aligned with the sales and the support organization as well. Nowadays, what we tend to find is that your customers, or even like the potential leads that you are getting on the website itself, they're impatient and they're really getting into the moments of instant gratification. So we do need to have a means in which all the response from a sales organization to be timely. So things like being able to be alerted when somebody takes a notable action on, say, like the website, showing interest in a product or a service and actually landing on that lead at that given right point in time. Your website at the end of the day should be the nth sales rep out of the whole organization, right? And then your role as a marketing department ultimately should also encompass some sort of sales persona as well. So have a think about how you could potentially impact that across, not just from a marketing lens, but also from a sales and support organization for that purpose.
Thanks so much, Eugene. Thank you. So guys, before we wrap up this webinar and I pass over to Camilla just for some final thoughts, I think the best way to summarize this whole session has been that what we're doing now versus 6 months ago is totally different. So we have to look at all those tips and tricks and insights given by the panelists and look at how we tweak either small tweaks or huge changes to our marketing efforts to gain more market share. So I just want to thank our panelists, to our attendees. You will receive a copy of each of the decks. And just on that note, I'll pass over to Camilla just to finish up.
Hello, you haven't seen me on the screen yet, but I've been in the background here. Thank you so much for attending this webinar this afternoon. Thank you so much, Sean, for hosting us. It's been fantastic. And we also have two other guests here, which you might have met as well, but do you want to come up and, yeah, we keep the distance. So here's Camilla from the Swedish Chamber Board. And here we also have Sophie from Fika Swedish Kitchen. So thank you for coming here in person. They're very local here in Manly, so we thought it would be nice to invite a few of our members Sean's office here as well in Manly. But thank you so much. The Chamber, we have some exciting events coming up. We are launching a series of experience sharing events. And the first one is going to take place in the end of August. So I'm organizing that together with Camilla, Camilla and Camilla. We will promote this soon. It's mainly targeted to maybe our smaller members, but also the larger companies, of course. But it will be on specific topics and in smaller groups, and we will use breakout rooms in those sessions. But more information to come. We do have an event which is organized by our Young Professional chapter, and that is on the 13th of August, and that's going to be about leadership. That has been promoted already, an invitation has gone out, and it's also on our website. But have a look on our website for all our up and coming events. We also recently, I mentioned this as well, we recently launched as well a mentorship program. And we are still doing a pairing now with our mentors and mentees. And if we have any more members out there who feel like they would like to become mentors, please contact us. And there's also more information about that on our website. Well, thank you very much. And thanks again, Sean, for hosting us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks to all our panelists. And thank you to everybody that logged in today. Thanks again. Have a great evening.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks,
Thank
Sean.
you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.